I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a counseling psychologist, no other than Dr. Bonnie Wims. Welcome to Book 101, Dr. Bonnie, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I am a counseling psychologist, and I have a private practice, and I work with clients. I provide therapy, and it's something I came to late in my life, but I had to wait a while to be able to go to school. So I became a psychologist at the age of 50. And it's just the greatest joy of my life. I love working with people around their mental health and helping them understand themselves better.
Dr. Bonnie Wims, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So let's talk about mental health awareness. Can you tell us about this?
Well, we all have mental health, and I think the old sort of idea about mental health was illness, that if you thought about your mental health, you were ill. So you were either schizophrenic or depressed or anxious, but that you had a problem, and other people judged you for having that problem. And thankfully, I think with more education around the topic and more conversations and people coming out talking about their mental health, we begun to realize that all of us have a mental health to take care of, because we spend a lot of times in our heads. Our heads are busy, busy places. So for me, I realized that I think if you pay attention to your mental health, if you think about your mental health, think about yourself, you can live a more happy, fulfilled life in the way that you want to, because our heads get in our way. So it's mental health to me is critical for every single person.
Indeed, Dr. Bonnie. Foundations of mental health awareness. What does mental health awareness mean to you as a coach?
I think it's about you understanding yourself and why you think and act the way that you do. So you become aware of the patterns and habits that you have that drive your behavior. And without the awareness, you sort of perform in a automatic pilot sort of way. It's without thinking about why am I making this decision the way that I am? Why am I in this kind of relationship? Why am I allowing this thing to happen to me when I don't want it to happen to me? There's just so many contradictory thoughts and behaviors that we have, that mental health awareness helps us understand. So from childhood, I understood myself this way because of some things that happened to me. Therefore, it's now kind of gelled into low self-esteem. So I allow myself to be taken advantage of, or I never advocate for myself at work, or I don't do the things that I need to do to feel better about my life. So it's not a direct, cause and effect, but everything that happens to us ends up contributing to the way that we feel about ourselves and then the way that we act. And so to me, it's critical that you become aware of what do you think about yourself and how do you think about yourself, and therefore then how do you behave.
Dr. Bonnie, why is it important to talk openly about mental health, especially in today's world?
Yeah, well, I think it's critical. I don't think you can have true sense of fulfillment in your life without good mental health. You hear people who are rich or famous or working their dream job, and they're miserable. They're depressed or they're anxious. Anxiety is the number one mental health crisis in the world right now, and people are self-medicating or on pharmaceutical drugs for it. And I'm not against medication, but there's just a lot going on in the world right now, and we know about it in such more detailed way than we ever have. So all of this information is coming at us, and we don't really know how to process it, to come back to ourselves, to come back to the present moment, and to be able to be ourselves with all of this information coming at us and all of these things to worry about. So people get anxious, they get depressed, they get all sorts of they have all sorts of challenges around how they feel because of sort of how they're processing information based on old patterns and the way, what's happened to them in their past. So it's just critical. It's absolutely critical. I don't think you can have the life you want without good mental health.
Indeed, it's crucial to know that you are in a good fit mentally. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people still have about mental health?
I'm glad you asked. I have a podcast myself called
Yes.
Therapy Deconstructed. And that's where I talk about the modern sort of misconceptions around therapy that prevent people from taking that step. I think the number one thing I've heard from therapy, misconceptions about therapy, is that somehow I'm going to tell you what to do. And this people say, well, why would I go to somebody, a stranger, to have them tell me what to do? So number one is we don't tell you what to do. Therapy is not about me telling you what to do or giving you advice. It's about listening, really hearing you so that I can begin to understand where it is that you're stuck, where that you have these contradictions that prevent you from moving forward into relationships and work situations or career moves that you want. So it's about listening more than anything and reflecting back to you what I hear you saying. So the misconception about advice that you're going to be told what to do. And another second one, I think, is that somehow it's going to hurt you. Like it's scary. It's some sort of mind reading thing that is going to be frightening and it's going to hurt you emotionally. Therapy can be hard when you're thinking about hard things that have happened to you, but it also can be fun. I laugh a lot in therapy. My clients laugh a lot. It can be a really good time. Okay, because who doesn't want to be validated? Like who doesn't want to be listened to, really listened to? And that's what therapy is. I listen carefully and clearly. I don't say, oh, that was interesting. Let me tell you my story. It's not about me. It's all about you. So you get this time that is dedicated to you and only you. And so I think those are the two that I hear most often that people use as a resistance to it.
How can someone begin to recognize signs that their mental health may need attention?
I think the easiest answer to that is check in with how you feel. You know, um, I went through a time that was very hard, and I remember I kind of lost the ability to feel joy. Things that were happening around me that normally would have made me happy, and I detached from it. I felt like I was an observer of my life. I wasn't in it. I wasn't feeling the happiness that I typically would have. And I think for me in that time, it was recognition that there were some things going on in my mind from my own past, from my own childhood, that had sort of caught up with me that I had never fully dealt with. And so I needed to take a step back and to think about how my own personal trauma from my childhood had informed my view of myself. That was the key for me. So it's this way of really checking in and not feeling as connected to yourself as you want to. We're not always going to be happy, even if we're in therapy and we're connected with ourselves. But that connection to be in your life, to really be experiencing it fully present. I think when we struggle, we take a step back and we sort of withdraw and we get disconnected from ourselves.
Dr. Bonnie, beautifully articulated. Very well said. In your experience, what are the most common mental health challenges your clients face?
Number one, as I said, I think is anxiety. That will drive people into therapy. They feel anxious. They feel anxious at all the time. They feel anxious when they shouldn't be feeling anxious. They don't even always know what they're anxious about. So it's just this sense of nervous and worry that people come to me with a lot. Also, depression. Sometimes at the same time, believe it or not, you can feel anxious and depressed at the same time. Those are the top number two causes for people's challenges with their mental health is anxiety and depression. Those are big terms that mean a lot of different things depending on who you are. My depression wouldn't look like your depression. So I don't get hung up on labels of telling people, oh, you're depressed, or oh, it sounds like anxiety or panic, because it's far more important for me to just understand, what are you feeling? How are you feeling? Where did this come from? So that we can begin to sort of pull it apart and challenge some of the thought processes and habitual habits that you have around it. So it is depression and anxiety the most common, but it shows up in a lot of different ways. People are having trouble in their relationships. They're having trouble at work. They're having trouble with sleep. They're having trouble with all sorts of areas in their life. They won't always necessarily know that it's anxiety or depression. They just know they're not feeling good. So kind of answered your question. It didn't answer your question, but it's a lot of different things that show up under kind of broad umbrella, a lot of the times under depression and anxiety.
Coaching and mental health. How do you differentiate between coaching and therapy when it comes to mental health?
Love that question. Thank you for asking that. I think not a lot of people understand that. Um,
Yes.
as a therapist, I really I work a lot with in the beginning, what has happened to you. So we begin with you telling me your story of your life, so that I can begin to color in the picture of you. And that's how I see it in my mind, is you're sort of a black and white picture that I begin to color in as you tell me things and you explain to me how it is that you've come to be sitting here right now today. So in therapy, there's a lot of history that goes into our conversations. We don't stay in the past. That's another misconception, that we always stay back there, but it informs us. So it's essential that I understand where you come from before I can begin to understand why you feel the way you feel right now. So therapy for me is sort of a holistic look at the whole of you, from childhood all the way up to who you are right now, and then begin to understand, like I said, how you have come to feel about yourself the way that you feel. Coaching is often much more present, much more problem solving of current things. People might come with, I want to get a promotion. I really want to work on the ability to advocate for myself, and I feel uncomfortable doing that. So we'll do much more practical work and much more present sort of even role plays, but conversations around how in which you can advocate for yourself, how you can feel more confident in yourself. Sometimes it will take on some of the past, depending on what it is that we're working on. But most often it is much more of a current, present moment type of practical thing that somebody wants help with in a very concrete way.
Again, Dr. Bonnie, beautifully articulated. Very well said.
Thank you.
How do you create a safe and judgment free space for clients who are struggling mentally?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's the number one thing that I am working on establishing from the very first moment. Because without trust, without a sense of safety, you aren't going to talk about things that potentially are at the root of what you're feeling. Like, not everyone, but say in my example, I grew up in a very dysfunctional childhood. I had a abusive alcoholic father. I can talk about that now because I've gone through a lot of therapy. But in the very beginning, when I wanted to start working on how I felt about myself, was very much related to that. I didn't feel very comfortable, and I was very nervous, and I was very unsure of what I wanted to say or how I wanted to reveal myself. I did not trust. So for me, my first therapy was critical, that therapist sat with me and was patient and present and heard me. It's that listening quality, that there's listening, then there's active listening. And active listening is I reflect back to you what you've said so that you feel validated and heard. And over time, when you go somewhere and you're talking with somebody and they see you and they hear you and they validate you and they stay really present with you during that hour, you begin to trust them. You begin to trust that hour. You begin to trust that this relationship is special and that somehow this person is really seeing you. And that being seen gives you a sense of then being able to even explore more and to go deeper and to talk more about very vulnerable topics. So without trust, it doesn't work. If you go to a therapist and you don't feel heard, you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel like it's going well, change therapist, because it is essential that you trust, because everything stems from that. So when I work with clients, that is my number one job in the very beginning, was to make sure that you feel heard and that you trust me. And, other trustworthy behavior is obviously it's confidential. Obviously, I'm non-judgmental, that everything you tell me I can hear without somehow commenting on, maybe what people would say out in the real world about something about you, because you're already judging yourself most likely anyway. So what needs to come from me is an openness to hearing what you want to say and hearing you admit to things maybe that you're not so proud of or that you're afraid of. And then I can just reflect that back to you. I hear that you're embarrassed about that, or I can hear that's hard to say. It's not about my feeling about what you just said. It's about me hearing your feelings. So that's where the trust comes in.
Dr. Bonnie, let's talk about the breaking the stigma. Why do you think there's still so much stigma around mental health, especially in a certain communities or professions?
Yeah, I think it's fear. I think it scares people. It scares people to think that maybe they have some concerns for themselves. I think people get frightened by this thing that is largely unseen. You break your arm, you get a cast, you have a certain amount of time in that cast, and then it's healed. If you're sad or you struggle with low self-esteem or depression, we don't see it. We can't fix it in the same way. So it's sort of out there in the atmosphere. What are we really doing? So I think it's fear. I think people are afraid of that. And especially if they've never done it. I was terrified the first time I went to therapy. I think for the reasons I said before, I was afraid they were going to really, see me and judge me. But it was all my own fear that I was judging myself. So I think the stigma is fearful for themselves. The person that you see out there talking about that therapy is useless or that they don't believe in it, I guarantee you they have some pretty dark thoughts. People are afraid of admitting this stuff about themselves, which is unfortunate, because in that work is where you begin to change and allow for yourself to have a much clearer and happier mind. But people worry that somehow it means something really negative about themselves. And so their defense is to make fun of other people who admit to having challenges. And our world is also pretty hard. It's not, what's the saying, just get up, rub dirt on it, you're fine. It's not very empathetic and sympathetic sometimes. So if, there's been situations where athletes have come forward about their mental health challenges. And there have been some people very understanding, and there have been some people who came out and said, no, like, you're playing a sport, play a sport. Like, we don't want to hear about your mental health. So it's it's fear that they just people don't want to get too close to it. They don't know what it is, and you can't see it. So to me, the more you hear about it, the more you experience it, whether it's somebody you love who is undergoing therapy or yourself, the fear starts to dissipate because you begin to see, oh, this is actually really good for me. This is actually making a positive difference for me. But still, there's too many people that don't do it. And also, the media doesn't portray therapy very well. There's not very many good shows that show good therapy. And that's where most people get their idea of what therapy looks like, from television shows or things they see on the news. So I just don't think there's been very many good portrayals of really good therapy and the way that therapy works.
Well, Dr. Bonnie, again, very well said. So, Dr. Bonnie, what would be your short-term and long-term goals as a podcast host, as a mental health coach?
My goals kind of remain the same. I want to work with people and help them achieve what they want to achieve, and help them clear their minds and help them understand themselves better. And so in the podcast, I try to help explain therapy, and I have people on that have been through therapy or are doing therapy in different ways. To just help kind of talk about it. I just feel like you got to talk about it. And then my private practice, working with people, I just have so much, like, I don't know if everybody has this, but when I'm in a session with a client, I know that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like, I just feel I was put on this earth to be a therapist. So, my goal is to just keep doing it as long as I can do it. I want to work with people and help people understand themselves better, so they can, just kind of shake off any old stuff that is holding them back, because the past can be a prison sometimes, and it takes work to understand that. But I think once you do, your life can be an incredibly beautiful thing.
Indeed, totally agree with you, Dr. Bonnie, and good luck to your goals. And what will be your advice for those people out there looking forward to have a good mental health?
Well, I guess if you're thinking about your mental health, that's already a good step. That means that you've stepped into that awareness that you have mental health and that you need to take care of it just as much as your physical health. So, first of all, congratulations that you're there. And I say, find yourself a therapist. Find yourself someone you can connect with, that you feel helps you challenge yourself, challenge old thought patterns and habits, that is open to helping you achieve what you are hoping to achieve, and just help you. We hold ourselves back. We hold ourselves back from so many things because of fear, insecurity, negative messaging, all sorts of things that can be traced back to things that have happened to you. So we need to unlearn some bad things, that negative messaging, the stuff that makes us think that we can't, and bring in new messaging that allows for possibilities. I just think therapy, find someone you can connect with that you trust. And if the first one you try doesn't work out, don't give up, because this relationship is so crucial. It's like dating. If you can't find, you're dating someone that doesn't feel good, doesn't feel good. So find somebody that really makes you feel like the work is happening and you feel good about it.
Let's talk about real life applications and support, Dr. Bonnie. What's one of the most transformational stories you've witnessed in your coaching journey related to mental health?
Transformational journeys. Well, this might sound sort of strange to you, but I think it's my own.
Okay.
Does that sound egotistic? But like I said, I came from an abusive childhood, and you know, all sorts of messaging that a child takes in when there's physical, mental abuse in the home. There's all sorts of damage that is done to a child's psyche. And anyone listening who has gone through that will know what I'm talking about. There's an actual, real challenge for you in feeling good about yourself, because children translate this abusive behavior to be something that they've done wrong, that somehow they're the problem. So I think for me and my therapy journey and then becoming a therapist has been transformational from that abused child who had the lowest of low self-esteem, who had would never be sitting here talking to you on a podcast of any sort of like belief in myself that I had anything to offer. So it's been this real journey for me, this arc of self-discovery, of understanding that a lot of the challenges I had in my thoughts about myself were really about the way that I coped with abuse. And so as I began to understand that it came from what happened to me and not that I'm fatally flawed, I began to grow, and I began to be able to do things, challenge myself, go back to school in my 40s and graduate as a psychologist at the age of 50. Those are things that this young child would have never done. So it transformed my belief in myself, and it let me kind of slough off any of that old messaging that came from that abusive childhood.
Dr. Bonnie, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in its fifth season, abstract poetry in the second season, and book 101 review in its fifth season, people, comedy 101 in the second season, food 101 in its fifth season as well, and geography 101 and love letters are in its third season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101, my movie 101 review, as well as my music 101 is in a fourth season. So please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Dr. Bonnie, what message would you give to someone who feels alone in their mental health struggles?
First of all, I'd say you're not. So many people feel that way because you're in your head, you're thinking, and that's a very lonely place sometimes, especially if the thoughts are negative or self-destructive. So we make ourselves believe that we're alone in it. When you hear the statistics of the number of people who report being anxious or depressed, you realize you're not alone, number one. But number two, just that's a trick that our brain is telling us we're alone because of the dark thoughts. So the message is that you can't always believe what you're thinking. You're thinking things because of what's happened to you. And those thoughts aren't always accurate. In fact, a lot of the times they aren't. So you have to do a little bit of digging and investigation. And that's where therapy comes in, to say, why would I think I was alone in this? Or why would I think that I'm not worth loving? Or why would I think that I'm not worth challenging myself and going for my career goals? These are messages that are coming from somewhere deep within as a result of what has happened to us. Adversity, abuse, negative messaging. This stuff sticks, and it begins to tell us what and who we are. So you got to step away from it. Don't believe it. It's not true. And get yourself a therapist.
Indeed. Dr. Bonnie Wims, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast itself and, of course, your being coach?
Yeah, my podcast is Therapy Deconstructed, and you can find it wherever podcasts are. It's also on my website, just under my name, Bonnie Wims, Wims. And you can reach me through my website. Also, you can comment on my podcast. You can book on my website a free 30-minute consultation to have a conversation with me. And you can schedule that right through my website also.
Yes, people, support Dr. Bonnie Wims, because if you support her, more and more and more empowering episode for the podcast itself, more and more and more empowering coaching to come. Dr. Bonnie, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
More to come, people. See you soon.